when I first wrote this fairy tale, it was titled One Blind, One Deaf, One Mute, One Cup. The princess and the prince had been travelling for many days now, visiting the local towns of the kingdom prior to the great marriage that was to come. The people loved the princess and approved of her choice of husband. However, there was one man who did not approve. He was a baron, and he very much wished to marry the princess. This prince had ruined every chance of that future. But the baron was a clever man, and clever men know how to achieve their goals. So one night, when the princess and the prince were eating their royal meal at the inn, the baron poured a potion into the prince's cup. As the prince drank from the cup, the potion worked its wicked magic and hid the prince's voice from him. The prince could no longer talk. The princess was in despair because for a prince to become king, he must recite the sacred oath. How can a mute man do this? Aggrieved, she left the prince behind and returned to the palace, where she cried and cried and cried. The baron, wily and sneaky, also travelled to the palace and consoled the princess in an attempt to win her over so that he may marry her and become king. One day he made his proposal to the princess. She refused, claiming that he was too old. Furious, for he was but 3 years her senior, the baron kidnapped the princess and her 2 sisters. He locked them in a tower in the middle of the desert, claiming that they would not be released until the princess agreed to marry him. In the tower, in the desert, the princess and her sisters sang together to keep each other's hopes alive. Many years later, their singing was heard by 3 knights who rode upon their noble steeds to the tower. There they did battle with the baron, who had gathered many dark powers and an enchanted shield that he used against the knights. But after many days of fighting, the knights overthrew the baron and rescued the 3 princesses. The princess was delighted to discover that one of the knights was her prince, who had been poisoned, and now he had his voice back. The other 2 knights had also been poisoned by the baron. One had been blinded and the other deafened, and they had worked together to heal each other. The prince and the princess married, as did the other princesses and knights, and they all lived happily ever after. The end.